All right, let's get started. So welcome everyone, and tonight I'm going to talk a bit about memory and mindfulness and the connection between the two and how to use this in practice. And this is something that you find in the suttas, but maybe that connection between mindfulness and memory may not be so clear to you. But in the suttas it is a very important connection between these. And I'll come back to that in a second. But one of the reasons I want to talk about this is because of the workshop that we have been doing. You may have heard about this gradual training workshop that Bill was mentioning before. Where's Bill? Bill is gone, disappeared. Oh, there he is. Okay, way in the back over there. So, what is very interesting about this gradual training? By the way, are you coming to the gradual training workshop? Yeah? Okay, one of you is nodding. Okay, a few nodding. Okay, great. Yeah, good. Because this is the real word of the Buddha, yeah? That's when you get the real deal. Tonight is like more of a kind of a mixture of various things, yeah? But on the Saturday workshop, that's kind of the word of the Buddha in detail. Anyway, you can do whatever you prefer, of course, but it's nice to hear what the Buddha had to say, of course. And one of these teachings of the Buddha, I'm just mentioning now, is this idea of the gradual training. The idea that the mind develops gradually. The practice starts in a certain place and it ends in a certain place. And you have to know how to apply yourself, where you're at in that gradual training. It's very important. But what is kind of extraordinary about this gradual training, it starts off just ordinary people kind of starting the spiritual path and it ends up with awakening. It's kind of extraordinary, yeah? It means everyone here can get awakened. That's what it means. Do you believe that? Yeah, you believe? Wow, okay, I'm very impressed. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Because sometimes people think, me get awakened? That's impossible. The fact that you have confidence already is a very good sign. Because you are human, and if you're a human being, you can get awakened. And that's kind of the really good news. But what is interesting about this path, you would think that this path begins with something that you have to do, because it is your practice, it is your gradual training. So you think it begins with coming to the Buddhist society. That's where it starts. For some people it starts here, right? So they think that's kind of where the path begins. But actually no. The Buddha says that the path begins, and this is kind of extraordinary when you think about it, it begins with the arising of a Buddha in the world. That's where the path begins. And you may wonder, what's that got to do with you? Yeah, Buddha arises in the world. It's kind of a random event that happens every now and again. What's that got to do with you? What's that got to do with your practice? Got nothing to do with your practice. And that's kind of the point. A Buddha arises in the world, allows the insight, allows the path to exist. Without that Buddha, there is no path. But not only that, not only the fact that the spiritual practice begins with something that's got nothing to do with you, but that is really significant, because it means not only that aspect of it, but entire path at the end of the day has actually got nothing to do with you. The path is something that arises. The path is something that kind of works on you, and you are almost like a passive recipient of these Buddha's teachings. And then the path works through you, because you think, okay, that makes sense. They're probably going to make me more happy. They're going to reduce the suffering in my life. They're going to make, maybe the world a better place, or whatever, at least our private world. And so they're worthwhile practicing. And so it is this idea of non-self, of the path being impersonal, the path being something that happens rather than something that we do. Often it feels like we are doing it, but ideally we get out of the way and we allow the path to happen. And that is why we're just doing the meditation before. The idea of being the passive observer, being the passenger on the train, rather than the driver of the train, is such an important part of this practice. You allow it to happen. You are just aware. You're just observing what is going on. And so this is kind of the extraordinary thing. It really only occurred to me recently how strange it is that the gradual training begins in this way. Yeah, and I thought, wow, that's kind of fascinating. And sometimes the reason you see that is because someone says to you, okay, let's do another workshop. What are we going to do? Gradual training? Okay, so then you start to look at it with new eyes because, you're doing this workshop. And so it's all very non-self, impersonal. This is this beautiful word we have in the Pali language called anatta, which means impersonal or non-self or something like that. And it shows us a lot about how the Dhamma actually works. And so what this means is that if there is no, if it is kind of things are working from the outside or working in whatever way, in a conditioned way, it means that we have to get the conditioning right. And so that conditioning, how does that conditioning express itself? Well, very often it expresses itself through your memories. What is it that you remember at any particular time? Sometimes if you are conditioned in the right way, through maybe listening to Buddhist teachings. This is a very Buddhist kind of way of thinking about it. The right way, of course, means the Buddhist teachings. We're here at Dhammaloka after all, so the right conditioning is Buddhist teachings. But if you get that kind of conditioning, after a while your memories are Buddhist memories. You remember the Dhamma. You remember how you're supposed to live. You remember how to react in particular situations. And this is this idea of bringing memory into the practice, allowing the Dhamma to express itself through you because you remember these things. This is the power of memory when you do it right. And of course that memory requires a lot of brainwashing. Is that right? People don't like the word brainwashing, but I think it's a beautiful word because actually that's a very Buddhist way of thinking about things. You're going to get brainwashed anyway. Might as well get some good brainwashing. That's kind of the idea here. And there's something very, very realistic about that, and very kind of that's actually what is going on from Buddhist point of view. So get that good brainwashing. Keep coming here every Friday or whatever. Allow kind of Ajahn Brahmali or whatever to brainwash you, or the suttas or the word of the Buddha or whatever. So the word mindfulness that we use in Buddhism should be imbued with this kind of memory. And when you start to look at the way the word mindfulness is used in the suttas, for those of you who are new, is the word of the Buddha. That's the suttas. If you look at the way this word is used, in the Pali language it's called sati. Sati, translated into English as mindfulness. And so if you really want to know what it means, you have to go and read the word of the Buddha. And it says, very often, if you have good sati, you remember things that were done and said a long time ago. In other words, you have a good memory. That's what it means. This is one of the kind of crucial, maybe the main definition of sati in the suttas, where it's defined very precisely. You remember things that were said and done long ago, and you may see that, in your own life. If you are feeling at ease, you're feeling the mind has a certain degree of clarity, maybe after meditating here for half an hour or whatever, afterwards you feel the sense of clarity, and you can see that you remember more as a consequence. In the suttas it also says that if you want to remember things like, you want to recite something, maybe you want to recite a verse from the Buddha, or you want to remember something that was you read somewhere or whatever, that too is done through this through mindfulness, like clarity of the mind. The memory is good again. This is mindfulness. Things occur to you easily if you want to remember something. It's a very important part of this idea of sati. So sati is a mixture, on the one hand, of this idea of awareness, which is what we're trying to develop in meditation practice, awareness, and on the other hand, the memory. Memory and awareness coming together, that's really what sati is. And when you think about it, I was just thinking about this afternoon because I decided to talk about this topic, and I thought, actually, is meditation just about awareness? Very often we say meditation is about awareness. You are aware of the breath. You are aware of loving kindness. You are aware of whatever meditation object you're doing, just aware of what is happening. You're just present. But is it ever just awareness? And of course the answer is no, it is not ever just awareness. All meditation, all mindfulness is imbued with a sense of remembering what you're doing, the instructions that you're supposed to have. That comes with the mindfulness. When you have clarity of mind, when you are fully aware, you're not just that you are present, but you also have a feeling of what you're doing, why you're doing it. Often called sampajanya in the sutta. Sampajanya is really a way of thinking about bringing the memory of the teachings into your practice. So actually I think it is false when we say that mindfulness or meditation is about awareness. It's always about this mixture of awareness and memory. Sati sampajanya, as you see in the sutta. Sampajanya is really wisdom, but that wisdom is the memory and understanding and presence of the teachings of the Buddha as you do your practice. And so this is the idea here, yeah? Memory, bringing it into into this whole path of practice that we are doing. I will give you some examples of how this works. And this is a very kind of broad way of thinking about it. And this is a simile that I've been kind of using recently, and I will tell you the simile again tonight. Some of you have probably heard it before. But I think it kind of illustrates the power of memory very clearly. And this simile, which I started using, I don't know, about a year ago, 2 ago or something, is the simile of someone crossing a street. Yeah, if you are about to cross the street, what do? There's two options. Yeah, you can either you can just walk straight into the street. Yeah, like down in Perth. Yeah, at St. George's Terrace, you can just walk straight in the middle there. Just walk straight in. That's one possibility. Not recommended, right? Too dangerous. Yeah, if you just walk without looking, don't know what's going to happen next. The alternative, the better alternative, and please take this away, otherwise someone might sue me for kind of malpractice or something, saying just walk into the street, is of course you look left and right before you go into the street. That is the appropriate way. How often do you see people just walking into the street? And how often do you see people looking left and right? Well, almost everyone looks left and right before they walk into the street, unless you are maybe suicidal or something, right? You wouldn't do that. And what is interesting about this is that even if you are completely distracted, even if you are kind of, have your mobile phone in your hand and you're doing whatever, certainly not kind of watching what's happening around you, walking into lampposts, walking into people or whatever, even if you're almost 100% distracted, when you come to that street, you always remember to look left and right. Isn't that interesting? It's very interesting because even when mindfulness is very low, we remember to do the right thing. And so there is something that comes in addition to the idea of awareness that is more important than awareness. Sometimes we focus too much on the idea of awareness in Buddhism, not enough on the idea of remembering the teaching, having right view, looking at the world in the right way. In many ways, that is more important, because even if you have no awareness, as in this case, you're on your mobile phone doing whatever, then when you come to that street, because you have been pre-programmed, because you have been brainwashed at Dhammaloka Buddhist Center enough times, or whatever it is, when you come to that street, you look left and right, even if you have no awareness. In your life, as a Buddhist, as someone who wants to practice the spiritual path, even if you don't call yourself a Buddhist, you remember the Dhamma, you remember the teachings. You look left and right before you act, before you speak, even before you think. That is the power of having the memory, the right view, that imbues, that remnant of mindfulness. You may not have much mindfulness at all, but whatever remains of mindfulness is imbued with that idea which allows you to do the right thing. It shows you the power of right view. The right view, when you come to that street, is the view of danger. Cars are harder than human bodies. If there is a kind of a collision between the human body and the car is going to win every time, You know what that is like. Well, hopefully you don't actually, but you get what I mean. So this is a way of thinking about the power of memory, the power of right view, and how to bring that, and how to use that. And that shows you that what we have to do to kind of have that strong memory when it is required in our practice is, of course, we have to keep on contemplating these teachings. We have to keep on coming back to them. We have to keep on understanding what they are about, so that memory is strong, that right view is strong. It is embedded deeply inside of us. And so when you need it, it is easy to bring it out. It is easy to know what is going on. So that is one kind of way of thinking about this. Another way of thinking about this is another kind of little simile that I've been using recently. Gives you an idea of how to, again, allow the Dhamma to percolate through your mind, arise when you need it. And this is the simile of what happens when I go back to my little kuti in Serpentine. In Serpentine, that's where the monks' monastery is, Bodhinyana monastery. The nuns' monastery is up in Gijaganup. So we are kind of two very different places. And so if you haven't been to our monks' monastery, anyone here who hasn't been to our monastery? Everyone has been to our monastery? Okay, great! Yay! Come more often. That's what I say. So it's down in Serpentine, down kind of an hour south of Perth or whatever. And a kuti is the word I just mentioned before. It's like a little hut. So we have like a little huts in the bush, and lots of trees around and all kinds of things. We have little huts. And my kuti, my hut, I have my own little hut. Venerable Dayalu has his own little hut. I'm sure Venerable Upeka has her little kuti in Dhammasara Monastery. My kuti is about 400 meters away from the main building, so quite a long distance. We have quite large pieces of land down there. And when I go to my kuti, and Nicholas over here can vouch for everything I say, I'm not telling any lies, this is the truth of the monastery. When I go to my kuti, I can't really see any other kutis around. I can see one kuti far away on the hill on the other side. That's kind of 500 meters away. I can't even see any people there. So when I go back to my little kuti, it's like complete, really sense of seclusion. You're really by yourself. It's just you, the kangaroos, a few ticks, of course. A few ticks, a few mosquitoes or whatever. But it's actually really beautiful and peaceful. And so this is kind of how we live in our monastery. And I have this path going up to my kuti. And one of the things that I have in my kuti, which probably many of you don't have, I have a view. I have the most magnificent view. Isn't that right, Nicholas? I have this extraordinary view. When I go, my kuti is kind of high up on the hill, right? This is in the Darling Scarp. So high up on the hill, maybe 200 meters above sea level. And so I look out. There's no trees in front of my kuti. It's kind of just open landscape. And I see the plain below. And maybe 20, 30 kilometers away, I see the Indian Ocean. And my kuti is kind of facing west and also a little bit northwest. So I look northwest and I think to myself, wow, that's where Sri Lanka is. I feel really happy when I remember Sri Lanka. I love Sri Lanka. I've been to Sri Lanka many times. It's such a beautiful, green and marvelous little island. And when you go there, you feel at home. I feel at home here in Perth as well. But there you are kind of among other Buddhists. So I kind of look out to Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, in case you hadn't noticed, the earth is curved. It's not flat. Some people claim it's flat. It's actually wrong. It's curved. If it was flat, I could see Sri Lanka, but I can't see Sri Lanka. So I guarantee you it is not flat. I guarantee it is curved. And so I kind of look. I wish there was a big mirror in the sky so I could kind of see Sri Lanka in the mirror. I come coming down, but that would be, maybe we can do that one day. We can shoot up a mirror with a rocket if we become way too wealthy as Buddhists. So this is the kind of view I have for my kuti here. This is kind of how I think sometimes. And then north of Sri Lanka, very close, is India. So there's India, the birthplace of the Buddha, where Buddhism kind of was so strong for about 1,500 years before it gradually faded away. And so I look out to my kuti, I see Sri Lanka, I see India there, I think about the Buddha. Isn't that extraordinary? That's kind of what I get from my kuti. This is how we live in Serpentine, on this beautiful hill, overlooking the Indian Ocean in this way. Now, one thing we also have in my QT, because it's far away here, I have a toilet. Yeah, because I can't go down to the main toilet. I can, but it's a long way, and sometimes business is urgent, so you can't really, what are you going to do? And so behind my QT, maybe 40 meters behind my QT, I have a hole in the ground. That's my toilet. There's no building. Yeah, there's nothing. There's just a kind of hole in the ground. There's some planks or whatever, and that's kind of my toilet. And that toilet is even higher up than the QT, so the view is even better. So the toilet really has the best view in the world. And again, I can kind of look out to Sri Lanka on my toilet. It's not so nice to think about Buddha Dhamma when you go to the toilet. So I look in a different direction a little bit when I go there. So it's kind of to make things different. And so this is kind of the open air toilet, yeah, and it's kind of exciting because sometimes maybe people might come by, right? Actually, this is really in the bush. The chance of people coming by is virtually zero, so it's kind of nice. But it's kind of really, really open air. It's really nice. But the reason I'm talking about all of this is because this is, first of all, to give you a feeling for what it is like to be a Buddhist monk, yeah. So if you like these ideas, yeah, maybe you should consider becoming a monk or a nun, yeah, because this is kind of how we live. And if you ever want to see how we live in the monastery, come on the Katina day, yeah, after the rainy season. We have like guided tours of the monastery. You can see some of the cuties. You get an idea, and maybe Nicholas will take you on a special tour to my cutie. Sorry, Nicholas, I'm just being very naughty here. So. But what happens, of course, because all of this relies on paths through the bush. Sometimes the paths grow over. And I have noticed in my mind, when my path to my toilet grows up, because that path is obviously important, often the mind gets very reactive. Okay, I've got to do something about this. Time now is to kind of clearing the path, yeah? Just like we clear the Noble Eightfold Path of problems or whatever. I want to clear the path up to my toilet or maybe to the main buildings or whatever. So the mind gets very reactive. I want to do things. I want to sort this out now. Now is the time to do this. I want to go up to the main area and kind of tell the Anagarikas, please come down to my kuti, or the nearest layperson, yeah? Maybe whoever, and say, I need to get things cleared. Yeah, please chop down this branch or this tree or whatever is in the way here. And so this is one of the things we do. You may wonder, why don't I cut down the tree myself? And the reason is because we have rules against cutting down trees. And so instead we go to some non-monk and we say to a non-monk, we can't say, cut down this tree, because that's kind of tantamount to doing it yourself. So we say things like, this tree is in the way here. And then we just remain silent, and see what happens. And if they kind of look at you, some people are really stupid. Even if you give a hint like that, they don't get it, right? And they say, it's in the way, yeah, so what? And then they kind of walk off or whatever. But usually, when you give a hint like that, people kind of get the idea. Yeah, okay, so they maybe help you out. But I've realized that actually it's not a good way of clearing a path. There's often no need for cutting down the tree here. So I allow the reactive mind to actually just be there. I stay with it instead. Okay, forget about the reactive mind. Wait a little bit. And what is amazing when you wait a little bit is that an alternative view starts to arise. You start to see, actually, I don't have to cut down any trees. There is an alternative path on this side over here, or on that side over there. There is a dead tree over there that I can remove. And when I remove that dead tree, there is plenty of a path. Or maybe after a while the branch falls off or whatever. There's always alternatives. And it's exactly the same thing on the spiritual path. Very often we just need to wait. We shouldn't be so reactive. Very often when we are reactive, we're actually blocking the path instead. We are doing too much. Instead of allowing things to open up in a natural way, which is far more easy, far more beautiful, far more satisfactory, we go in there and we kind of want to destroy and take things down. In the same way, in our spiritual practice, we try to destroy the obstacles on the path. We want to do something. We sit in our meditation, watch the blooming breath, watch the breath. Get rid of that anger, squeeze it out of the mind. And we are too reactive. We force ourselves too much. We don't wait long enough. We don't sit back and allow the Dhamma to kind of arise in our mind. Because you have it in your mind already. Yeah, most of you have been coming here for a long time. You know so much about these Dhamma teachings. Be less reactive in your life. Wait more. Be patient. Allow the Dhamma to arise because you have it inside of you. And if you do that, then you will have a far easier and also a far more wholesome and skillful life as a consequence of that. All this doing, all this activity, the trying to kind of make the path work, actually very often it does the opposite. We end up messing things up because that doing, that trying to kind of make the path work, usually comes from the sense of self, comes from an ego. It comes from a place that is not Dhamma, not the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha said that the ego is a problem. The ego gets in the way. The ego doesn't understand what is right. The Buddha understands what is right. And so we need to allow these teachings to take over our minds. And then you are on the right track. So these are two simple ways of allowing mindfulness in our ordinary daily life to arise in your mind. Stop. Be patient. Don't react. Wait until you know what is the right way. Allow the path to open up by itself. Then you see the right way of moving. Going left, going right. Taking a step backwards before you take 2 steps forwards is often the right way of going about things. And so this changes your attitude a little bit. Yeah, it changes the way you think about Dhamma. Don't be the doer. Don't be the agent. Don't try to make the path work. Allow the path to rise inside of you because you already know. The memory is already there. This memory that has been fell down or put down within you over a long period of time. You just have to allow it to come back again. So this is how you can use it in ordinary life. But you can also use these ideas in your meditation practice. It's not just about ordinary, but also in meditation we need to do these things. And there is various ways of doing this. One of the most basic ways of using the idea of memory in meditation is what we call the recollection meditations. These are ways the Buddha talked about and encouraged us to use to kind of give rise to joy and happiness. These are called anusati. Sati is mindfulness, anusati is recollection. It's the same word, except for anu in front, a little prefix in front. And so we use our understanding of the Dhamma, and we recall that. And when you recall that, it has a powerful effect on your mind. 6 different kinds of recollections. One of these very simple recollections that I really recommend you to do, and it's very, very beautiful and very powerful, and it gives you a sense of self-worth, it feels good about yourself, is to recall your own sila, your own virtue, your own goodness. You've been coming here for a long time. Many of you are really good people. At the very least, you are trying really hard, and what a wonderful thing that is, that we try to do what is right in the world. And so you remember that, actually, I'm trying my best. Yes, I have conditioning that makes it difficult, and sometimes I make mistakes. Maybe I make mistakes often, but so what? I'm trying. And then you think about the things that you have done. You think about the precepts you have undertaken. You think about how you treated other people well, for the most part. And you feel a sense of warmth inside of you, because you know that you are a good person. This is called sila nusati, remembering your sila. And to be able to do that, you have to remember it, right? You have to remember the good things. Don't remember only the bad things you have done. Actually forget about the bad things you have done, Who cares about the bad things that you have done? Are you able to forget about the bad things you have done? It's hard. Most people complain, I can only think about the bad things, I can't think about the good things. Take a leaf out of Ajahn Brahm's book. Ask Ajahn Brahm. He can never remember anything bad that he has done, right? And of course he hasn't done many bad things, but he can't even remember anything bad things I have done. I have done a few bad things, right? But if I ask Ajahn Brahm, he's completely erased it from his memory. If I say to Ajahn Brahm, do you remember that this monk, he did this 2 years ago? No, I can't remember that at all, completely forgotten. All I can remember, he did this nice thing, this beautiful thing. Ajahn Brahm only remembers the good things. This is why he tells this story of, Anyway, I'm not going to try to remember Ajahn Brahm's stories. They're going to fail utterly miserably. So, but one of the story of not picking up the chicken dung, but just picking up what is actually valuable in the world. And so train yourself to do that. Train yourself to see the good in other people and the good in yourself. Because most people have good aspects to them. That is what is interesting. That is what is valuable. That is where the treasure lies. The treasure doesn't lie in fault finding. The treasure doesn't lie in being a clever critique. Some people, they think I'm a clever critique. I criticize everything in clever and fancy ways, and they kind of take a certain pride in that. Actually, it's a very bad idea, because it leaves these traces of memory that are not usable in the future, that actually drag you down. But if you remember the beautiful qualities, then when you sit down to meditate, you can bring that recollection up, that memory up, and it makes you, the meditation, joyful and happy, because you remember the good things. Forgive the bad things that you have done. You may have done some bad things. Actually, almost certainly you have. I have. There are certain memories I have tried to erase from my memory as well. I'm trying to follow Ajahn Brahm's path, erasing all the memories. Haven't quite succeeded yet. Ajahn Brahm is kind of a long way ahead of me, but I'm kind of trying to follow in the slipstream of Ajahn Brahm's giant truck pulling me along in the slipstream. So try to follow that, because it's very powerful and beautiful when it happens. That's one way of using recollection, memory, mindfulness and memory coming together. Another way is to remember the teachings of the Buddha. Sometimes you may remember maybe a single verse, something very beautiful and powerful you have read in the suttas, something you have heard here. Hatred never ceases through hatred in the world. Hatred only ceases through love. This is an eternal law. It's a beautiful saying here. If you can remember that simple saying, wow, I think that's actually, and it's so true, right? Hatred only begets more hatred. Then there's revenge, there's more problems. The way to end hatred is to not kind of pay it back with more hatred, but instead to change the attitude and bring something positive out instead. So you remember little simple things like that. Wow, that's so inspiring. Did the Buddha really say that? And you understand the Buddha as this towering spiritual genius in human history. To me, the Buddha is head and shoulders above everyone else, bar none. Not bar none, but bar nobody. I didn't mean you, Ayopeka. So, the Buddha is really extraordinary. And so just remembering those teachings, remembering what the Buddha was about, remembering that you're part of this here at the Buddha Society. Wow, what an amazing thing that is. And you lift yourself up and you use this idea of recollection to do something powerful to your own mind, feeling a sense of joy, uplift, happiness, meaning, purpose in life, going somewhere real, not just kind of going in circles all the time, something real, powerful happening in your life. And so this is another way of thinking about these recollections. There are more, there are 6 recollections altogether. I've given you 2. Imagine how exciting the other 4 are when you only heard 2. You're not going to hear about them tonight. You're going to have to come back another time to hear about the other ones. This is how we lure you back to the Buddha Society. This is how the conditioning works. So I just want to give you a flavor tonight. I don't want to kind of give you a full kind of detail of these things. Usually when I talk about these things in great detail is on meditation retreats. This gives an idea what is happening here. But that is not the end of it. That's the recollections. There's a bit of a noise, static noise coming through the speakers. Maybe a microphone is on or something, I'm not sure. So the other way of doing this, another important part which kind of fits in with how we are doing things here at the Dhammaloka Center, when we're doing like mindfulness or breathing or just awareness in the present moment or whatever, even then you have to remember the teachings. I mentioned before that when we meditate, you have to have the memory of the teachings, like the instructions have to be there with you. If you forget the instructions, then you may be aware, and then you lose your awareness, you are gone, and you don't really know what's happening. And you forget about the instructions, or you are aware, but you forget to watch the breath, and you are aware of the sounds, or you are aware of somebody at the back of the room doing something that shouldn't be doing, like falling asleep. Actually, falling asleep is okay. And then maybe you get irritated by somebody. That's the last thing you should be doing while you meditate. Please don't get irritated by anyone. Everyone here is doing their best. Everyone here just needs to relax, and sometimes that means you fall asleep or whatever. That's okay. Have compassion with people when they fall asleep. That's what I mean by not remembering the teachings. And so you have to bring the memory of the teachings with you while you're doing the breath meditation, while you're just being aware, knowing what you're doing. And if you have that clarity of the mind, it is as if the teachings are there with you. You know whether what you're doing is suitable. You know whether it will achieve the right kind of purpose. You are aware, okay, I'm getting a bit of ill will. Okay, I know that that is wrong. You know it straight away because you have the awareness. And this is this idea of sati sampajanya in the Pali language. The knowledge of whether what you're doing is right and appropriate for the occasion or not. And that you take with you into the meditation. And the mind state that you kind of have when you do this is this kind of large, broad mind state. It's not a mind state where you have kind of just an awareness without any kind of clarity. It's a clarity about what is going on. Often this is called full awareness in translation into English. Or sometimes it's translated as clear comprehension, sampajanya. One of my favorite monks translated as situational awareness. Which is kind of a bit technical, but in other words, you have awareness regarding the situation you are in, and you know whether what you're doing is appropriate to that. Situational awareness. It's a large mind. It's a mind that encompasses more than awareness, but has this feeling of the presence of the Dhamma right here, right in the present moment. That's beautiful when you feel the Dhamma is with you. It's like you're carrying it with you. And this shows you why making too much effort in your meditation is the enemy of your practice. If you try too hard in your meditation, you block out that awareness of the Dhamma. Because the trying often comes from the sense of self. The trying is the activity of the ego, and it doesn't allow the Dhamma to percolate, to shine through, to rise to the surface. The ego is there in its stead. And you know what it is like. If you try to remember something, I'm sure you have all been there. Oh, what is the name of that person again? Oh, I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. And the more you try, the less you can remember it. You know what I mean? I'm sure everyone has been there. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just really weird. But I'm sure I'm not just the only weird person here. We're all a bit weird. And then you let go. You stop trying. And the moment you let go, bang, it comes into your mind straight away. That is because you're allowing that memory to come through. You're allowing it to rise in your mind. And it's exactly the same thing with the Dhamma. If you want to have success in your meditation, instead of doing it, instead of trying to kind of be ego-based or self-based, you want to reduce that as much as possible. And the more you reduce that, and you'll be surprised how many layers of this there are. You may think that you're not doing anything too much in the meditation, but actually, probably you're doing too much already. You're just not aware that you're even doing it. The more you let go of that doing, the more you get out of the way, the more the Dhamma shines through. The more you have that ability to recall what you're supposed to be doing right now in the present. This is one reason why we should not be trying too hard in our meditation practice, because it blocks our ability to have sampajanya, clear comprehension, full awareness, the clarity about what you're supposed to be doing here and now. So again, remember, the teachings are so important. All of these things together require you to understand what the Dhamma is, require you to study what Buddhism is all about, require you to reflect on what these teachings mean for you. How should you apply them in your life? What does it mean in your daily life to use the Dhamma teachings? What does it mean to use it here at the Dhammaloka Center? What does it mean to use them when you are on retreat? The more you understand what these things are about, the more you have include them in your daily life, the easier it is to remember them when the time is right, because you have the kind of the right conditioning in your mind, the right view, the right understanding that allows those memories to come out. This is what is happening here. And so this is how you build up that thing that then allows the whole path to unfold. And this is one of the reasons, as I mentioned many times here before, why right view, right understanding is at the very foundation of the Buddhist path, because this is what allows all of these other things to unfold in the right way. And as you keep on practicing in this way, there comes a day when maybe you too have a very deep insight into these teachings. And that deep insight into the teachings of the Buddha, really deep, is called stream entry. You enter the stream of the Dhamma. From now on, the Dhamma is natural, it just happens all by itself. And the reason is because now it's no longer a memory. What used to be a memory, what used to be allowing the Dhamma to kind of, come to the surface in your mind, has now been integrated into your personality because you have seen what it is all about. It is integrated into your psyche, into your psychology. You have, in a sense, become that Dhamma. Well, that Dhamma has become a very powerful part of you. You no longer need to remember it so much. It is a natural part of who you are as a human being. And this is where memory turns into wisdom. Memory turns into a final kind of faith, a full faith in the Buddha, because you know the Buddha was right in what he was saying. The confidence in the Buddha is complete. And that is where ultimately this path of memory leads to the understanding, to the full insight into the teachings of the Buddha as the Buddha himself taught them. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. And so, there you are. That's tonight's talk, yeah. All right, so now we have an opportunity, as usual, to ask questions and to make comments. Yeah, Mr. Prem is quick off the mark over here. So, yeah. You know who Prem is? Yeah, you know Prem already. Okay, Prem is known by everyone. No one does not know. No, how to say this? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much. What is your name, by the way? Alistair. Thanks, Alistair. Yeah. Oh. Please, Prem, just go for it.
Okay, Ajahn. Recollection of one's weaknesses or things that one could not achieve, etc. Would that help in cutting down or lowering the sense of self, Sakaya Ditti?
Okay, so by reducing your weaknesses or whatever,
or
you can
recollecting your weaknesses.
Yeah. You mean like your pride, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're reducing your pride because you don't think you are such a goody-goody.
Yeah. So that way you reduce your sense of self, don't you?
I don't think so. I don't think that's the. Well, I mean, sure, it is good to be aware of one's weaknesses, but it's not. One shouldn't be conceited or narcissistic and think that one is kind of an arrogant when you're just a kind of an ordinary kind of person or whatever. Some people are like that. But so sometimes, yeah, it is important to have some awareness of our weakness. I agree with that. But most people tend to overdo it dramatically. And so the problem is really the other way around. We think too much about that. We think too much, not only about ourselves, but we see the negative in other people too much, instead of rejoicing in other people's good qualities. It's amazing that anyone has any good qualities in this world. Everyone should, it's remarkable. But what I would do to reduce your sense of self and conceit is not so much thinking about your flaws, but more thinking about yourself as a conditioned person. It's not because of you that you are a great person, Prem. It's got nothing to do with you. You're not the reason. It's because of the Buddha that you are a great person. You should thank the Buddha for that. No need to get conceited about your good qualities. I have a lot of respect for you, and I think of myself in the same way. Why should I be conceited about this? Yeah, do I? I mean, I'm not going to say that I have any good qualities, but maybe I do. If I do have some good qualities, then I should be grateful for the Buddha. I should be grateful maybe to my parents, maybe grateful to my fellow monks and my fellow nuns for being so kind and compassionate to me. Grateful to Ajahn Brahm, grateful to the Buddhist Society for providing me with a cutie in the bush, grateful to the whole world, for kind of making it possible. But it's got nothing to do with me. My sense of self has no wisdom. My sense of self is stupid. The Buddha, that's where the wisdom comes from. Every time I do something wise, is because of something that has been input in my life. That is a much better way of overcoming conceit and the sense of self and sakkaya ditthi. Understanding has nothing to do with you. And then if you have a good quality, you can just be happy about it without feeling conceited. You can feel joy. Yeah, I've got this good quality. What a wonderful thing that is, to have these good qualities. It just brings joy and happiness in the world. I'm living well. Marvelous. You can enjoy the goodness without being conceited about it. That's what I would do. Your microphone is not working, I think, Prem. Yeah.
Thank you. Sati and Samma Sati, could you touch on the difference? And also, is there something called Samma memory?
Samma memory. Yeah, I think there is actually. I think you have a good point there. It's an interesting point. The Samma Sati is the kind of mindfulness of the Satipatthanas. Yeah, when you do meditation properly. And that arises once mindfulness has been really established in your life. So when you sit down, your mindfulness is clear and bright, and you are watching the breath. That's when you have Samma Sati. So the mindfulness is no longer blurred. It is not. Your mind is not kind of going off to the future and the past all the time. You don't lose your sense of awareness. You're kind of fairly strongly present in the here and now. Yeah, and so much so that you're able to follow the breath quite easily. That's Samma Sati. That's the Satipatthana practice. Sati is broader than that. Sati happens also earlier on the path. Every stage of the path requires a degree of sati. When you are saying, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I'd say something nice instead. At that moment, you have sati about the teachings. And that moment is a mixture of awareness and samma memory, as you put it, right? Because you have the right memory. You could call it yoniso manasikara, right? That's one way of thinking about it. Yoniso manasikara, the wise attention, is that your attention is imbued with a memory of the teachings, with an understanding of the teachings, with a kind of wisdom that you have, with the brainwashing that you have achieved in the past. And that samma memory is basically the memory of the Dhamma, the memory of what is right, what is good, what is appropriate. Yoniso manasikara, sampajanya, whatever. Yeah. Sure. Okay, please, Eddie. Yeah.
Ajahn Brahmali, in your talk tonight, you mentioned about memories, and you also talk about the recollection of the Dhamma.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't the recollection of the Dhamma the first of the 7 factors towards enlightenment?
The first of the 7 factors of enlightenment is, it can be that, the Sati Sambhojanga.
Bhojangas, they said,
the mindfulness factor awakening. One of the ways of practicing that is the recollection of the Dhamma, specifically. You remember the Dhamma. That's one way, but it's only one way. That factor can mean different things depending on the context. It can also just be ordinary Satipatthana practice, is also that. So it can just be practice in the breath meditation or whatever, that's also Sati Sambhojanga, or it can be recollecting the Dhamma, so it is a recollection. But it's not so much the other recollections are a bit on the side of that.
But what I'm trying to say is, if it is this thing, Bhojangas, it's a healer, isn't it?
It's a healer?
You're recollecting the past Dhamma, the 7 factors, the different stages towards enlightenment. The final one is equanimity, isn't it? Equanimity, So it was said, that when Buddha was sick, Chunda recited this, and he gets well.
That was something I wanted to mention actually during the talk, but I never got to. And that is the recollection of the Dhamma. When the Buddha recall or ask someone else to recall the factors of awakening, and he arises from illness. Very, very powerful recollection.
Powerful. It's powerful.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. It is.
Okay, good. So let me just take a few of these from overseas. Maybe it's a good idea. So that means we can carry on here for as long as you want afterwards, but so that these don't have to wait for too long. So let's have a quick look at what people are asking here. So question from Germany. Dear Ajahn, how do I cope with a crazy world full of insane people without starting to hate? How can I protect myself from this hell? The cruelty makes me angry. What to do? Okay. So I think the word that you are, the one word which is really useful here, what you say, is kind of crazy. Yeah, that is really the right kind of word to think about this. That people, everyone is a little bit, maybe not crazy, but everyone is deluded. Very few people see clearly what is going on. And so everyone is walking around in darkness. And because everyone is walking around in darkness, they don't know what they're doing. They should turn on the light first. Turning on the light means to come to Dhammaloka Center. It means to practice the Dhamma. And gradually the light goes up and you start to see what is there and you understand how to emerge from that darkness. So have compassion for people in the world. We are all deluded a little bit, some people more than others. And the right response to that is compassion, because they don't know what they're doing. To get angry with them doesn't make any sense. They're not doing this out of their own free will. They're doing it because they haven't got a clue what is going on. And despite that, despite the world being full of problems and troubles, there's still so much goodness in the world. There's lots of goodness. Maybe I'm very especially kind of, fortunate being a Buddhist monk, because as a Buddhist monk you meet only good people pretty much. Well, maybe not only, that maybe occasionally, once in a blue moon you meet some dodgy people, but not very often. Usually you meet, and there are lots of good people in the world. The ordinary people in life, the ordinary people that you meet in the shops, on the street even, most of them are going to have good hearts, they're going to be good-hearted. That's why they became human beings in the first place. And so look for the goodness in the world. It is there. Forgive the people for the delusion. Don't focus too much on the delusion because you might get depressed, but remember the goodness. But that lifts you up. That makes you feel better. This is how you overcome that. Hate is if you start hating, you too are becoming deluded. You too will be going down the same path. Don't do that. Have compassion. Have metta. That is the right way. Okay, we have a question from Australia. Dear Ajahn Brahmali, thank you for the talk. You made a lot of valuable points. My question is, what is yoga and how does yoga relate to Buddhism? For example, in Vajrayana, the deity yoga, Devata yoga, okay, deity yoga, all right, is the fundamental practice. Are these practices exclusive to Vajrayana Sangha members, or do Theravada Sangha members also engage in these practices? Devata yoga. So that presumably means some kind of practice where you recall the deities and you kind of use them in visualization and this kind of stuff. I think that's probably what it is. Do we have that in Theravada? The answer is yes, to some extent we do. And now unfortunately, I said I was not going to talk about the other 4 recollections, but now I have to get into it because the question has been raised. And one of those recollections is the Devata Nusati, the recollection of the Devatas. And in the Theravada tradition, the way we do that is to remember that those qualities that those Devatas had when they were human, before they were reborn as Devatas, as Devas, those qualities they had as humans, which made them reborn as Devas, I have those qualities now. You think, wow, isn't that cool? These Devas, these beautiful beings with really pure and beautiful qualities, they're kind of bright and shiny beings, whatever they are. I am heading in that direction. There's maybe a little Deva inside. Like many of you, there's a little Deva inside. Isn't that beautiful? Many of you are like little Devas. That's how I think about you, because you have all these good qualities. You too start to think about yourself in that way. It encourages you. It doesn't make you conceited. So that is kind of the Buddhist or the Theravadan idea of Deva yoga. Yoga just means practice. we're not talking about the yoga kind of standing in various postures here. We're talking about the Buddhist word yoga, which just means practice or exertion. You're practicing in a certain way. That's how the word yoga is used in the suttas, in the word of the Buddha. And so that's kind of one way we do that. So that's kind of the Devata Yoga in Theravada Buddhism. So anyway, I'm not sure if that's what you wanted to hear, but that's the reality of it. So then we have another question from I can't really read that name, so we'll just go with the question. I have been stuck in the same position in terms of spiritual development. How can I keep moving spiritually? So what you have to do is you have to inquire very careful into why you are stuck. If you are stuck, there is a reason for that. There is something that you haven't been developing properly in your life. And one of the things that I would recommend you to develop is develop more compassion and more kindness in your life. Really develop compassion and kindness. Kindness means be as kind as you possibly can through your actions and through your speech. Treat other people with gentleness. Bring people together. Create harmony in the world. Be as truthful as you can. Say meaningful things. These are the 4 kind of ways of right speech. And do this. Be kind. Come from goodness inside when you speak. And do this. If you feel that you are not able to come from goodness because you're having a bad day or whatever, then don't say too much. Now is a bad day? Okay, best not to speak too much. Don't allow the compulsion of anger, the compulsion of negative states to drive your speech. Because often these defilements can be very compelling. They make you do things. Don't allow that to happen. Do what I was saying before. Wait. Wait for the Dhamma to arise inside when you know that you're doing the right thing. Develop more compassion for the world. The world is very easy now to complain about the world and to see, everything is going wrong. But actually, when everything is going wrong, it's a wonderful opportunity for compassion. Because people suffer more in the world. When there's more wars, when there's more problems. Compassion is the right response to what is happening in the world now. Not despair, not anger, not ill will. So develop these things. Develop more generosity in your life. How can you help out more? These basic things are the most important ones. These basic things are what will feed back into your meditation and make your meditation powerful. If your practice consists mostly of meditation, you may very well stagnate. By doing these basic things and then bringing that into your meditation, that's where your meditation starts to work. All right, question from Karen Lawrence. Ajahn, 6 months after the death of my friend from cancer, I am troubled. I made choices. Thank you. I made choices that led to his dying being far from peaceful. I do not feel guilt, but I do fear that I have affected his rebirth. All right, so what you have to remember here is that when people pass away, it takes quite a while before they get reborn. Most people will go through a state, an in-between state. This is often called bardos in Tibetan Buddhism, or antarabhava in kind of Pali language. It means a state in between. And in that state in between, that's kind of where your kamma ripens. Maybe you have a life review, remember what happened in your life, and then you kind of judge yourself or whatever. That's where your kamma ripens. And so whether they were a little bit not peaceful at the moment when they died or before they died is not going to be the most important thing. What is going to be the most important thing is how they live their life. All of those things coming together. In fact, exactly what happens when you die at the moment of death may not have any impact at all on what happens afterwards. It is your overall kamma that is what directs your rebirth into the future. So I don't think you have to feel guilty, and I don't think you have to think that you affected that person's rebirth. Very unlikely that you did. It is their kind of general kamma that will affect where they went afterwards. Then we have a question from Julian Murielti Joro, Rodriguez. Sorry, I apologize for not being able to pronounce your name properly. So, thank you so much, Ajahn Brahmali. A comment. Reflection is important to turn the teachings into beliefs that underlie our decisions. Analyzing our experience and how the teaching fits with them helps. Yes, that is exactly right. So analyze your experiences, see how they fit with the teachings, reflect on what is going on, understand the Dhamma, how it is in your life, and then you are going to be on the right track. Very good. All right. So any further questions or comments from people here? Sadhu, thank you. Everyone else is happy? Yeah? One, two, you get a final chance not to be happy, but you are happy, so that's what can you do? That's wonderful. So let's just pay homage to the Triple Gem here.